Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher, Editorial Director at Sweetwater, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this special webinar put on by BOSS for Sweetwater and featuring guitarist extraordinaire Pete Thorn.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Sideman with Melissa Etheridge, Don Henley, Chris Cornell, Jewel, lots of great credits, solo album. In fact, we were hearing some of your music playing during the intro to the webinar here, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, nice, nice. And you're here tonight. We're going to talk about BOSS pedals. We're playing through a couple of GA212 BOSS Roland amplifiers. And so we've got a lot of things to check out.
Definitely, definitely.
So you want to get started? We've got how many pedals here in front of us? 12 pedals, and it looks like we're starting out with the TU3 chromatic tuner.
Yeah, the TU3 is a really great tuner. Update to the good old standby TU2 with a couple cool features. I think it's got this kind of cat's eye. I can't remember the exact technical term for it, but you know, when you're in tune, you see these two lights go like this, and you're locked on, and that's really nice for a blind guy like me.
It's very clear. You know, it's very clear when it comes together. You can see it on a dark stage or a bright stage.
It's actually got a brightness adjustment. So like they put that on, so on a mid daylight, if you're out on a stage, you're going to be able to see that thing, which is rare. I find that's hard to do with most tuners.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's really cool. It's also, I believe, a little more accurate even than the old TU2. I think they worked on that. It seems to be, one thing I really like in a tuner is when they go right to the pitch and they don't have a lot of like this stuff going on, and it definitely does that. It just locks on, and then when you're in tune, those two things go to the middle, the cat's eye thing. That's very cool.
Right. Much easier to see when you're in tune.
Yeah, really good tuner.
All right. Before we go any further, I do have to mention one thing. From 7 to 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we are running the BOSS 100 promo. If you spend $100 on a BOSS product, you'll get a free TU10 tuner along with your purchase. So be sure to take advantage of that. Call your Sweetwater sales engineer. They'll set you up with a tuner when you make your BOSS pedal purchase. So
now that's
cool thing,
that's
right?
this unit, correct?
That's the TU10, right?
Yeah, which I've been using in the studio. It's very accurate and it's super cool. The great thing I love about these clip-on tuners is that you can go to a gig, say sitting in with someone. You don't have to bring like a tuner and a cable. You can just bring your guitar and plug in wherever, and you got your tuner right there. You don't need to. So it's really convenient, and they're just as accurate, I find, as a tuner on the floor, pretty much. It's got the same cool thing too, the little cat's eye thing that comes in when you're in tune. So
locks right on. Yeah. So a cool bonus there when you spend $100, the BOSS 100 promo, celebrating the release of the 100th pedal, which we'll be talking about, the Terraco, the TE2. So like I say, 7 to 9 tonight, you can take advantage of that promo. So how about we get started with the blues driver? We're going to play a little music, aren't we?
Absolutely. The blues driver's been around since the mid-90s, I do believe, and. Nice thing about this pedal is I find a lot of sort of lower gain overdrive pedals will lop off a bunch of your low end, and they'll give you nice mids and stuff like that, but they lop off the lows and kind of thin out your tone. This one doesn't really do that. Your lows stay nice and fat with the blues driver, and it's a great pedal for like a primary overdrive tone if you're using a clean amp. But if your amp is gainy and you get the blues driver cooking on the gain, you can send it into like searing sustain, and it's really fat in the mids and give you a great like kick it over the edge lead tone into a crunchy amp.
Right, without making it all fuzzy.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's real fat and warm. It's definitely like a warm, fat sort of vintage tube amp style overdrive.
Right, nice. Yeah. Well, let's hear it.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. You want to do like blues in E or something?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Why don't we do that? You all set?
Yep.
Nice. Great tone coming out of the blues driver.
Yeah, it's real fat.
Yeah, nice.
Real fat, nice, thick mids. Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Should we
Good
move on
pedal.
to the Ds1 Distortion?
Yeah, let's talk about the DS1 for sure.
Okay, I'll turn that on for you here.
So the DS1's been around since '78. I learned today that it's the best-selling distortion pedal of all time. Biggest selling distortion.
How about that?
So that's a huge one for Boss and obviously for distortion pedals in general.
That's right.
Distortion aficionados unite.
Carrying the torch
Yeah,
for
totally.
distortion.
Totally. And it does a great kind of, it's not an overdrive, it does a great kind of hard distortion. Depending on the amp that you're running into, I find it almost border when the gain's all the way up on a fuzz if that's what you want it to do. Let's see what it sounds like right now. So it's got that kind of hard edge distortion quality, but it's
Right.
It's definitely a cool pedal. It's a classic, used by, I believe, like Steve Vai, Joe Satriani on Surfing with the Alien, into supposedly a JC120.
Wow.
Was what I heard, and many different people have used DS1 over the years to great effect. So
Yeah, very nice. Very
cool
nice.
pedal. It's a classic.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And once again, it doesn't drive you so much into that fuzzy. It still maintains the tone of your guitar when you're playing.
Yeah, totally. It's definitely like that hard edge, like hard clipping distortion sound, but it's definitely more like a vintage style, thing. I mean, what I think of as vintage now, anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So next up, we have the Metal Zone, the MT2,
Right.
and I think that most everyone would think of that as the scooped mid.
Right.
pedal.
Definitely. Okay, so the thing about the pedal is that it's got a really, really powerful mid-range control, active mid-range control. It's got a sweep EQ, so you can pick the frequency whether you're boosting or cutting, and then boost or cut like to quite a extreme degree. So one thing that I actually think this pedal really sounds cool for, the tone that I just used is something a lot of people use it for, that kind of like, it sounds like Metallica Kill 'Em All album or something.
Right.
But when you boost the mids, you can get, and I mean just a little bit, I've got the mid knob now boosted up with the exact same knob settings, everything else. You get kind of like a Michael Schenker type lead thing almost. And I'm not playing very loud right now, but it's almost going to feed back,
Right.
with that. So if you're trying to get, a lead tone to cut through the mix, that's the way to go. It almost sounds like that cocked wah thing that
Right.
Schenker used to do. So once again, I'll just sweep the mid knob so you can hear what it's. So you can, definitely get a lead tone that cuts with that pedal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
So
not,
much more versatile pedal than you might at first expect.
Sure, yeah. Even with the gain, I mean, gain down real low and the mids boosted. You can do that with it. Also has a low and a high band, so I mean, you could even get lo-fi tones by maybe dumping the lows like this and boosting the mids. Let's see what that sounds like. If you want to get like the guitar through transistor radio kind of thing, you can do it because the EQ is so powerful. For some quirky part,
Yeah, sure.
So it's definitely like not just a metal pedal. I don't think you can do a lot of different things with it.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I love the way that it kind of really brings out that harmonic when you have that mid punched up. You can hear the amp, like
Yeah.
you say, is just about ready to start pushing into feedback. Really nice.
Yeah, that's huge for me. Is on lead tones I like mids because it's like you just disappear into the mix. The bass player and drummer start like you. That's the thing about the mid scooped tones is that when the bass player kicks in and the drummer starts hitting the cymbals, your guitar just vanishes in the mix. Right? It can
Right.
sound huge otherwise, but get those mids going and it's definitely that's where the guitar kind of wants to live. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to have that to punch through.
Yeah. So Metal Zone, really really cool versatile pedal.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. So next to that, we have I'll turn this one off. We have a new pedal from Boss.
Yeah.
This is the DA2 Adaptive Distortion. Now, how is that different from a regular distortion?
Well, it's part of the new multi-dimensional processing series, and they've got 3 pedals in this series. And basically, it's like a whole new thing for Boss with this multi-dimensional processing. But in layman's speak, pretty much what happens is your guitar signal goes into the pedal, and the pedal ends up dividing the signal into a bunch of different frequencies. In the case of the adaptive distortion, distorts them all separately. So what happens is when you got a traditional distortion, sometimes when you play thick chords, you know, or like dense chords with lots of notes, things can end up getting cloudy and kind of muddy up, and you know, it kind of prevents you from playing chords with any kind of extensions. But with the adaptive distortion, one of the great advantages is that you'll notice all the notes speak. So if we turn it on, I find that really cool that you can play maybe denser chord voicings, because that's going to inspire you to play different kinds of music.
Sure.
You know, or at least advance into, you know, it's nice for guitar players to be able to do something besides just fifths and maybe adding the occasional ninth for color.
Right.
So with this thing, you can just... And I can still hear all the intervals in the chords. So.
Right. Yeah.
So some of the other things that are really cool about it are that it distorts the frequencies different, so your lows stay tight and chunky on this pedal. It doesn't sound like a tube amp or anything like that. It's not meant to be like your dad's distortion pedal. It's meant to be, you know, something completely different. But it does have a nice, warm, chunky character to it. So I think that's really cool. I'm going to turn up the gain a little bit, and it also has high and low EQ on it. Mm-hmm. So that's cool.
So you can really shape it exactly what you want.
You can, yeah. If I bring the gain up, so it's about halfway right now. This pedal has tons of gain. Once again, like playing a major 7th chord, and the notes will actually speak. Yeah. And so your lows stay nice and tight and chunky, and the pedal definitely retains all your lows. But when you play on the high strings, one thing that's super cool is you can get up high and things don't get screechy, and I really like that in a pedal. So you can get up high on the, say, 15th fret on the high E string. You know, and that's on the bridge pickup on a fairly low output humbucker, and it just sings. Doesn't hurt. Yeah, you know, which is cool.
Yeah, it's a nice round sound.
Yeah. And this is getting kind of up into the nether regions of gain. I can play like 7th and things,
yeah,
and it actually works. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So I think it'll inspire some new players to do some cool stuff, because it's just a different kind of distortion unit.
Yeah, it allows you to explore all those harmonic possibilities. Harmonic being chords and different voicings and things, because the 7th chords and the extended chords you're playing there on most pedals are into just a distorted amp.
Even an amp,
into just mud or just mush. You wouldn't hear those notes at all.
Right, because of the fact that, you know, a traditional distortion pedal or amp will just distort everything all exactly the same.
Right.
You know, and this pedal's actually doing some crazy internal multi-dimensional processing.
Right, yes, exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. The other thing I like about that pedal is how responsive it is to your pick attack and your volume knob. It really follows and tracks the dynamics, and you're playing very, very well.
That's true. You can roll your volume up So much like a tube amp, you know, in this respect, it is kind of like a tube amp. It's got dynamics and rolls up and down. It feels like chunky and has this nice give, like when you. It just feels really good, like the kind of kickback from the pedal. It's really... So I like that about it a lot too, for sure.
Right, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. So the last pedal in this BCB 60 is one that you see in a lot of players' rigs.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
It's the noise suppressor, the NS2. Tell us about this pedal.
Well, it's kind of a, I've used this pedal on numerous occasions. A number of techs will carry it with them in their workbox, and when you got some crazy noisy venue with single coil pickups or something, because I like to play guitars with single coils a lot, and some of my guitars don't have any like noiseless systems. This one does, but some of them don't. And so a pedal like this comes in handy when it's like, we got to get rid of this noise, you know, if you're playing in places with a lot of RF or that kind of thing. So it's really easy to use. You just kind of, you know, I'll turn on a couple of the distortions. You can hear a bunch of hiss getting generated, and this pedal just clamp down on it. And then when you start playing, you know, it just keeps things dead quiet.
Right.
And without it, you know, it gets all crazy. So it keeps that hiss under control. So it's a really cool Swiss Army knife kind of pedal for sure. Yeah.
The nice thing about that pedal is that it doesn't, you don't lose your guitar attack. You're still, all your articulation gets through with it.
Yeah, that's
true. It doesn't
true.
cut any of that off, so
Like,
it's almost intelligent in the way that it looks at it.
Yeah, it's one of the best gate style pedals I've ever used, because sometimes I hate it when you know the note's tailing off and you hear the gate grab it and it kind of starts sputtering and stuff, and this pedal doesn't really do that, you know. I've used it live on numerous occasions and I've never felt that it had any of those qualities, so it's definitely really cool to have in your arsenal.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's step over to the next pedal board.
Okay.
You've got two choruses on here.
Yeah, okay, so we've got the Super Chorus, the CH1, which is actually on the left, and then the Chorus Ensemble on the right. CH1 is an old school, it's been around for a long time, and it's just a great straight up, you know, nice for, you know, doing all kinds of rhythm guitar type chorus tones. It just sounds really. Turning it off. Just adds a nice subtle swirl to the sound. And of course, you know, I've got it set up right now where the depth's kind of high and the rate's low, so it's just for like that subtle kind of, you know, you might set and forget sort of, and like not notice that it's on until you turn it off sort of sound, which I really like, you know, in a chorus, because this chorus is overdone for me. I don't like that sound. You know?
So it's all watery sound.
Yeah, but this sounds pretty nice. Just adds a nice subtle dimension to the tone. So the main difference that I noticed between the CH1 Super Chorus and now over to the Chorus Ensemble is the Chorus Ensemble actually has a high and low filter, so you can really control the tone of the pedal. You know, sometimes choruses can get a little bright, and that's what can make them sound like a little overbearing sometimes. So this is nice because you can actually, you know, tone down the top end of the chorus with the treble knob. So not that you can't do that in the Super Chorus, it's got a tone knob, but it's just like the single tone, you know, where you're kind of getting lows, highs, as opposed to like an actual active high and low EQ. So the Chorus Ensemble, I've got set up for a little bit faster chorus with a bit of a, you know, warble. And if I was to roll, I've got the highs rolled back quite a bit. If I roll them up, you get that glassy chime. Once again, that's rolling them back now. So that to me makes the chorus a little more subtle when you chill out the high end a little bit.
Yeah, you don't. It doesn't have as much presence.
It doesn't have as much presence. Yeah.
Right. So the dry guitar still comes through.
Exactly. It lends a little more it's just a little more subtle, which is always nice.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. But it will do if you want to do a heavy chorus, you can do a heavy chorus with it.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. You know, it'll get into that kind of, you know, I mean, you can make it seasick if you want. That's what's the, you know. You know, you can get it into that territory if that's what you're going for.
Sure, if you're looking for that effect kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah,
should also
definitely.
mention that both of those are also stereo pedals. So if
That's
you're running
right.
2 amps, you can get that real wide, spacious kind of a tone out of them.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll definitely serve to split your signal if that's what you want and give you a real wide image.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, powerful pedals.
Yeah.
All right. So next up on the list here.
DD3.
Mm-hmm.
So the DD3 is also been around for quite a long time. I wish I knew the release date of that pedal, but I can't remember. But it's just a straight up, usable digital delay. One thing I should mention about these pedals is you can actually use them really effectively in an effects loop of an amp. A DD3, I know that, and DD5s and DD7s as well. But a lot of delays don't want to work well in effects loops, and DD3 is great. Works terrific. But we've got it in front of the amp right now, and I had it set up just at the beginning there with the blues driver. I was using it for a slap. So, and not too loud. If I bring up the delay mix level a little bit. So it just does a straight up, and it is a digital delay. So it's going to do whatever you put into it. It's what you're going to get back out of it. So it's got quite a bit of delay time. I think it's 800 milliseconds. So if I turn it up, the delay time a little bit here, raise the feedback. Essentially whatever you play is what's going to come back out of the pedal.
Right.
So very, very, very cool, useful, straight up kind of digital delay pedal.
Right.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that pedal for me is that it is a digital delay, which means that the repeat comes back clean and it doesn't deteriorate like an analog or a tape delay would over time.
Right.
But it's still, there's a tonality to the delay that still makes it sit well with your playing.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really,
no,
it
for
really
sure.
blends in with your playing nicely. So there's some kind of sonic thing going on there with those delays that makes them really work well for guitar.
I agree. No, the DD series of I had a DD7. It was a great pedal. For leads and whatnot, sometimes you want that clean delay.
Right.
You don't necessarily want especially into distorted, or if you're running it as your delay for a solo distorted tone. Sometimes you want real clean long repeats. You don't want them like degrading into analog,
Right.
Sort of more mucky. That type of sound is really cool to me. If you're doing any kind of like soaring, sort of long sustaining leads.
Yeah.
It's got more impact, I find, when you let the delay, not, the high-end roll-off thing isn't necessarily what you always want,
Right.
A lot of times I do like that, I like the, analog color, but sometimes if you really want the delay to speak and ride out for a long time, you want to keep all that high-end.
Right.
So, yeah.
But you don't want the delay to fight with your dry notes. And
Exactly.
that still sits nicely when you're doing that.
It does, and it's got a nice taper on the mix knob too, so you can always get it, sitting right in the, right in the center.
Nice. That's a great sound.
It is. It's a great sound. Yeah, it's got a really nice. That was the adaptive distortion as well that I was using with it.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Nice combination.
Yeah.
Nice
a
combination.
Really good pedal. Yeah.
So next in line, we've got another of the multi-dimensional processing pedals, correct?
Absolutely, and this is actually my favorite. I like all of them, but this one's a blast to play through, and definitely something that I plan on using. This is a bit of an inspiration box. It's the multi-overtone pedal. And with a multi-overtone pedal, what it does is it's going to add overtones and different harmonics and stuff to your guitar. And the end result, to me, is that it can kind of end up sounding like you're playing with an organ type of, you know, maybe like an organ player or something playing along with you, and it's kind of uncanny, like how cool it sounds. There's 3 different settings, and the first setting that I'll just start with here, I'm just going to turn on the get a little bit of delay while I'm at it, just for fun. Just turn on the DD3 and. The distortion on there too? No, I don't. Okay. So this first setting is just adding an octave above the sound, and there's a detune control, and I've actually got that off right now. Okay, so turning off the pedal and on. You can hear that subtle octave on top thing. So that's very cool. Now if I turn up the detune knob a little bit, I'll play while I'm doing it. You can hear the sound start to swirl a little bit, and this is when the thing really takes on like an organ-like sound. So it's really doing a lot. I love it. You know, really cool sound. So, and things kind of just get cooler as I turn up into the other modes. Going on to mode 2, this really has the most sort of you know, organ-like sound to me. So this is adding yet another octave on top. Sorry, octave underneath. You're getting an actual like lower octave now as well. If you, would you mind turning on the blues driver there for me? So adding a little bit of distortion to the sound. You know, it's just got this crazy organ thing going on. That's pretty great.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it does that.
Right.
So it's pretty fun.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I dig it. I'm going to turn up the balance a bit more so that there's a bit more effect happening. And then if you turn off the blues driver, thanks, Mitch, cool. And now what we're going to get is another octave below, and things get really... It just starts to sound super majestic to me. So it's doing a crazy thing to the tone in my mind. Turning it off. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I mean, I could write parts with that all day. It'd be really fun in the studio to just start creating cool layers, you know, with a pedal like this. So love the multi-overtone pedal.
One of my favorite things to do with that is to run distortion into it and bring up that real low note.
Oh,
and
yeah,
get
yeah.
a synth bass kind of an effect out of the pedal.
Yeah, so if I turn on the adaptive distortion with it and go for sounds huge.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
And with the adaptive distortion, you can still play chords. You can still play chords with a multi-overtone.
Yeah.
So you get those huge chords on top of those synth lines. It's a massive sound.
It's a really massive, really massive sound. Yeah, Boss just released these pedals this year, the adaptive, the multi, and the Terra Echo, which we're about to talk about. But I think the three of them, my impression when I first tried them was like, you know, for a young guy, like that doesn't have any preconceptions about tone or you know, doesn't necessarily care if an amp's a tube amp or solid state amp or what, you know, there's new people picking up guitar all the time.
Sure.
They might play these pedals and be like, this is my rig, like, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
this could be the foundation of your tone.
Yeah, right.
You know, because they really do different stuff than I've ever heard other pedals do. So it's pretty cool.
I'm waiting to hear somebody with 3 of the multi-overtones, one set in each mode. So you get all 3 of them, split it and go in there, and you'd be like an organ stop where you could tune the, tune in the different harmonics and stuff.
That'd be pretty incredible. Yeah.
kind of over the top, but
Definitely. No, I like
somebody's
it.
got to do it, right?
I like it. Why not? Have 3 of them.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Exactly. So next up, as you mentioned, we have the Terra Echo, the TE2. I'll mention again, we have the BOSS 100 promo going on from 7 to 9 Eastern. If you purchase $100 in BOSS products, you get a free TU10 tuner.
Right.
Included with your order. Be sure and just let your sales engineer know when you make that purchase. They'll make sure you get the tuner thrown in there for you. So a very cool deal going on.
Very cool deal. Yeah. And,
And,
it's a great tuner. I'm not kidding. I've been using it every day in the studio and stuff.
And why not get one for free?
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 100th pedal, the reason for that promo is the Terra Echo.
That's right. So Terra Echo 100th pedal Boss is made. We've got to be careful not to say that it's the 100th anniversary of Boss pedals because we all know effects
It's
pedals
not
have-
quite that long.
Yeah, no, but someday, way down in the future,
Right.
that'll be the case. But yeah, the Terra Echo 100th pedal that Boss has come up with, also part of the multi-dimensional processing series, right? So very cool in that it does a bunch of different stuff. You know, that's essentially what multi-dimensional processing is. You'd need 3 or 4 different pedals to put together into this one pedal in order to, you know what I'm saying, in order to get the sound that this one pedal does. So it's obviously echoes in the name. As you can guess, it's got some ambient qualities. It has some qualities to my ears of like a filter and also a reverb and also a delay. And depending how hard you pick and what you play, the sounds coming out of the pedal change. And it can be sometimes unpredictable and pretty interesting. So
Like that.
like that, exactly. Or if I just play light, sounds like a reverb, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it just depends on what you play. So there's a S time knob here, and I'm trying to remember the exact terminology, the S time, what it stands for. But basically, as you turn up the S time knob, what you're going to get is longer delay, more reverb, you know, a more dramatic effect. And there's also the mix knob. So I'm going to bring the mix knob down just a little bit and turn the S time knob pretty much all the way back down. This would be the sort of the most subtle setting, and it really just, you know, you could mistake it for just a reverb when it's like this. Which is great,
Yeah.
you know, so it's very versatile, but
There's that.
hit it and you've got that filter. So it's very attack sensitive. I'm going to bring up the S time knob, bring up the effect pedal, effect level, and maybe what I will do is just play a little bit using the adaptive distortion and the Terra Echo, because what's cool about the Terra Echo, sounds crazy, what's cool about the Terra Echo is that it has a repeat hold function on it. So if I just play a little bit, and you can kind of hear what it's doing with a little bit more dramatic sound, and I'll hit the repeat hold and then show how I can play into the pedal while it's repeating something that I did before as a bed. So. So fun, you know. It's just like it's a lot of fun to play with these pedals. That was all three on at once. Towards the end there, I had the multi-overtone going for the fat octave distortion, and the adaptive distortion, adding the overdrive and whatnot, and the Terra Echo doing the bed, you know, with the repeat hold function with my foot on it, and then also it's still going to give you the delay and the reverb and whatnot as you're playing into it.
Right.
So that's kind of what I mean. Like a pedal, these three pedals could be the foundation of someone's tone. In my mind, you can do some really cool, you know, sort of, that was sort of like, I don't know, Gilmore-esque type stuff with it, but in a modern, you know, with completely different gear.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The when you're doing the hold function on that, the mix control controls the volume of the bed. When you're doing that, so you can, I think, bring that up and down underneath if you,
That's
you
correct.
want to adjust that level.
Yeah.
But like you said, the really cool thing is you still have the effect when you're playing through. That's amazing.
Yeah, you still have the effect, exactly. So you get it, you can get it just blended just right, and then play into it, and you know, it's pretty darn cool.
Right, right, and just so dynamic. That's just
It
you know,
is.
you're a very dynamic player. It really shows off the capability of that pedal when you're,
Oh,
you're doing
thanks.
those different techniques, because it you know, you bring in all those different timbres and different textures.
Well, and you don't know necessarily, like when I was doing the harmonics and I played them, then I fell off, and they got this thing that where they're echoing, but it's really doing more than it sounds like, or you know, the pedal's doing the lion's share of the work.
Right.
You know, I'm just playing some harmonics and then rolling off, and then the delay is like doing this really cool, crazy thing. You know, that's with the filter and everything, and it sounds. Yeah, that's what I sort of meant. You know, about it's a little unpredictable, and you can sort of surprise yourself when you're playing through it. So
Yeah.
I think it's really fun.
Almost interactive, kind of gives back.
Yeah.
When you're playing, and that's inspiring to play through.
Really inspiring. Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Really
nice.
cool.
So a really cool 100th pedal.
I think so. Yeah. Completely different for an ambient, you know, type guy, or somebody that needs something special, you know, and you want to stand apart. I mean,
Right.
let's face it. There's a lot of delays. There's a lot of distortions. There's a lot of these pedals on the market. So to try and do something different is commendable. I think, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to succeed at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
absolutely.
nice. So we've got one more pedal on the board over here.
Yeah, the loop station.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm pretty new to this pedal, but it's super cool. 99 slots to store loops in. So if you come up with some cool stuff, or you've maybe got, you know, you can load anything into the loop station. Like say you've got, you know, jam tracks, or your favorite songs you want to jam along with, or you come up with your own rhythm tracks where you can put those in there. It's got up to 3 hours of recording, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 hours. So as long as you could come up with 1 3-hour opus of music,
You
just
could.
hit play.
Or have your whole set in there.
Have your whole set in there and just push go. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's got. It's really cool because it's got like a built-in metronome and kind of click tracks and some simple drum beats and whatnot, so you can play along and get your loops locked in and whatnot. But you don't have to use those if you don't want to. I'm pretty new to it, but let's see here. I'll just try and do another similar sort of piece of music and play into the loop station. Let's set up the Terra Echo here for kind of a nice sound and see what this sounds like. loop. So let's say I record something and I really dig it. You know, once I get to the end and I'm like, yeah, that's cool. You know, well, I can store it in a memory location and I can always have that loop to go back and jam over. It's really easy to use. I'll confess, I'm kind of new to looping pedals, so I'm a bit of a. And this one in particular, I just got comfortable with yesterday. But it's really straightforward to use.
Right.
And I dig it. I think it's great.
Right.
Really user friendly.
Boss is, of course, known for the really powerful looping stations that they have that can do just incredible stuff with multiple loops at the same time and all kinds of stuff going on. But having that kind of power in a pedal board friendly format like this, you know, being able to stick it into a BCB 60 and route your pedals through there and overdub into it and have all those different loops and things is really amazing to have all that power in a compact pedal.
It really is, yeah. Really, really simple to use, and yeah, it's incredible they can pack so much stuff into that one little pedal. But you know, it's also got really cool like undo and redo functions. So if you screw something up, you know, you can always go back. I think I can play that loop again. So whatever I did the very last time I played through there, I just undid, you know. I can't even remember what it was that I did the last time when I was recording, but it's cool because you can go through and, oh, I didn't like that, you know, and you can go back and correct.
Right. And the screen actually tells you what you're doing. When you stepped on it there, it switched to, I think it said und, didn't it?
Yeah, it says undo or RE for redo, UN for undo. It's really simple.
Right, so it's giving you the information you need. And the way those loop stations work, anything you play into it, it records.
Yeah, anything you play into it, it records, and then it's very easy you can set the loop point, and then it's still recording, so now you can do an overdub, and then when you kick it again, that's now just in playback mode. So now you could maybe take off and play a solo over top of what you just but it won't get recorded into the looper. And then you can turn it on again, and with, you know, seamlessly start recording into it again to create more and more layers of stuff. So it's really easy to use, I think, once you get, I mean, I've literally, like I say, about 24 hours been using it, and I've been able to, you know, kind of get my way around it. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Stuff. And we should also mention that several of the Boss pedals here that we have are stereo, and the loop station is stereo in and stereo out.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're working with 2 amps, you're doing that. That is something you can take advantage of as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm being handed a card here.
What's happening over here?
All right, so we have some questions. The question is, we mentioned the loopers, and the question is which ones are available. Well, there's the RC3, which we have here, and there's the RC30 and the RC300.
Right.
So 3 different levels of Boss loopers there, depending on how much control you want to have at your feet, how many foot switches you need, and how many not delays, but loops you need at the same time.
Yeah.
And so you can step between those. But I don't know, that one may be my favorite just because it fits on a board.
Well, yeah, and it's nice and simple for a guy like me. I mean, you see some of these guys, like Boss does their looping championship, I think, every year around NAMM time, and you see some of these dudes that are like so you know, incredible at what they're doing, you know, with when it comes to the looping. It's just like it's a whole nother world.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun though, you know. It seems like I've been a little lazy to get, and like, you know, a little late to the party, I think, or something. But like, this is a blast, you know. It's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Yeah, you could be a one-man band with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of want to incorporate it into, you know, sometimes with Melissa I get a live solo spot, and you know, I want to kind of, I've been thinking for a while about incorporating some looping into that, and, you know, so it's definitely something I want to get into.
Right.
It seems like a blast.
Right, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So what is it overall that makes the Boss pedal so cool? I mean, they've had 100 pedals. Clearly, they've had a lot of success. As a guitar player, what is it that appeals to you?
You know, I think that you can't sort of discount that Boss was one of the first. They were there at the beginning, and they've made some epic classic pedals like the CE1. And, you know, these are classics, and they're not afraid to try new things. You know, like the Terra Echo, and you know, some Boss pedals have come and gone. You know, but they will go out there on a limb and try some cool new stuff. And there's been some terrific ones. Some of the other things that are great about them are you can find them all over the world. So that's fantastic, because it's like if you're in wherever you are and your pedal goes down, you know, you can probably run out to the music store and find the Blues Driver, or find the Metal Zone, and the show will go on, you know. And not only that, what's interesting about them is, having said that, how readily available they are, they're built so tough. There's like probably not a better built, you know, tougher enclosure on them. I mean, the switch is ingenious. You know, nobody else has a switch that's kind of like the whole front of the pedal that, like, you kind of can't break them.
Right.
So I think that's why a lot of people use them too, and why they've you know, stood the test of time, like no pun intended, but they have, you can stomp on them and they just, you know, they just don't give up.
That's so important. 'Cause
Yeah,
if you're
it's
at a
huge.
gig, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
You
it's
got to have
huge.
pedals that work. So.
It's huge. There's nothing worse. Dave Friedman at Rack Systems in North Hollywood, he builds all my pedal boards, does my rigs and stuff like that. And he always laughs at me because I have these gear mishaps all the time.
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, of course you know." I'll call him up in a frenzy on the road at some sound check. "Dave, I need help. You know,
Right.
something's broken. You know." And so he just laughs at me. So you know, having stuff that works and is durable, it's huge.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, for the road musician.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've got another viewer question here.
Yeah.
And this question is for you.
Okay.
And the question is, what was it like working with Linda Perry? What did you learn from that experience, and anything interesting come out of that?
You know, working with Linda was awesome because she is just, first of all, her work ethic is so strong. I mean, she'd be in the studio like, you know, 12, 13, 14 hours a day. She'd be the first one there and the last one to leave. And so that's really cool. And I also started working with Linda at a time in my life. We made this record that never ended up coming out, and I hope it does someday, with Courtney Love. And it was a really, really cool time in my life. I was coming out of a crappy failed relationship and depressed and stuff like that. And Linda and Courtney were really important to me. They actually, you know, helped me kind of get my my music mojo back or something. You know, it was like, you know, the fact that they both trusted me and they saw that I was willing to go in and work hard, and they liked that because you know, that's the space that Courtney and Linda were in at the time. You know, they wanted to just go in, and we spent about must have been 8 months working on this project, and did it with Billy Corgan, and it was yeah, I got to play with Billy and some other great musicians, Paul Ill, great bass player, Damon Fox, Nate Weatherington on drums, and then we ended up working a lot together with made a whole record with Daniel Powder, another guy named Ben Yellen, and some other songwriters. I got to play with Alicia Keys, do a couple tracks with her on her As I Am record.
Nice.
Yeah, and Linda's just, you know what's great about her? She's not a typical, like, she's not a cookie cutter producer by any means. She really loves the you know, great 60s and 70s and, like, you know, the golden era of rock and roll and R&B and stuff like that. She comes from that, and you know, she doesn't care about perfect, and she doesn't care about getting it done super fast. She wants the vibe, and I mean, we would sometimes do a lot of takes in order to get in the zone. You know, I mean, literally like maybe 10 on Courtney's record. I can remember doing 10, 20, 30, 40 takes because we were going for live takes. So the whole band playing, and she just wanted that magic one. And it was interesting, like that kind of diligence and perseverance, you know, just playing a lot, playing, and then we go break for dinner and come back, maybe hit it again, and then there was the magic one, you know?
Right.
So, not to mention she's got the coolest studio on planet Earth.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I counted once, there was about 80 guitars and about 20 basses out of the stands in her live room. Any kind of, I mean, Fender, Marshall, you know, to Selmers and Magnetones and crazy offbeat kind of amps and stuff like that.
Right.
Effects like you've never, I mean, it's just, she's got a you know, floor to ceiling of drums and effects, like shelves of this stuff in this room. So it's just a musician's paradise, like working in every place.
Right.
So yeah, I haven't worked with her much for the last few years, but I hope to again. You know, I miss her, and it was a great time. And she's a good friend. She'll always be a pal. So
Right. Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
nothing but good things to say.
Right. So you're well known as a sideman to the Stars. How did you get into doing that kind of work?
Well, basically, it all started around '97. I got into an audition with Adam Cohen, who's Leonard Cohen's son. He's a great singer-songwriter himself, and I ended up getting the gig with that band. That was my first touring gig, and once I got into it, I just found that the work sort of suited me well because I had this. You know, I'm kind of into tones and parts and learning things off records and stuff, and that's a lot of what you do when you're a sideman. You've got to learn somebody else's thing and stuff and get that down. But I like that because I feel like I'm learning something when I'm checking out something new that somebody else has done. So the work just sort of seemed to suit me, And so I toured with Adam for a while, and then I was with a band called Blink of the Star, a great band on DreamWorks Records for a while, but as a sideman, I didn't work on their record. And you know, went on to play with different people like Jewel and Chris Cornell and Melissa and stuff like that. And it's rewarding work, you know. It's a job, you know. You're hired to do a job, but you get to have sort of one foot in the world of what it's like to be, you know, a rock star guy in a band too, which is fun. Like when you're a kid growing up, you have these dreams of playing big places, you know. And you know, with Chris, I mean, we toured everywhere. I mean, we went all the way from Iceland all the way down to, you know, Chile, you know, as far as you can go in South America, pretty much. I mean, it was like we were everywhere. And the crowds and the response to, you know, playing with a rock icon like that, you know, was, I mean, I can't overstress how much fun it is, you know.
Oh, I can imagine.
We played Hyde Park for 60,000 people opening for Aerosmith, and he had the whole crowd sing me happy birthday because it was my birthday. I mean, these are things I'll never forget.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
It was really wonderful. So yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, so, and it continues to be. I continue to have a great time with the people I'm playing with now.
Right.
Yeah, it's all fun.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to get into that line of work, if they wanted to pursue being a sideman and get those gigs, what advice would you have for them?
Say, stay out of LA, go to law school or something, don't take my gigs. No.
Good advice.
No. You know, it's a lot of sticking with it. And I think just being around, like sticking in the game is, you know, I moved to LA and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I went to music school and I got out, I was like, I don't know. I played in the same band for a while, which ended up getting a record deal and making an album. But after that ended, then I had to kind of find my way again. You know, I was looking through the local, this was pre-internet, so I'm looking through the local paper, the Recycler, and, you know, trying to find, and the Music Connection magazine, looking for, you know, singer-songwriter needs a guitar player, and I went and did all that stuff. I'd just go play with people.
Sure.
And one thing leads to another, and you end up, you know, making friends and meeting people. And just sticking around, and, you know, you gotta know that you love it. Like, you gotta, like, the guitar has to be ruling, like, it's gotta call your name, or whatever instrument you play. I believe it's gotta be, like, you almost gotta be, you know, like a little crazy, because you're gonna be eating top ramen, and, you know, living in a you know, one-bedroom apartment with 3 people and that kind of thing. That's just how it is, you know, unless you're, you know, independently wealthy or something. That's how I lived for a long time. I paid my dues. I worked in a karaoke tape store, selling like karaoke tapes for 5 or 6 years before, you know, and I was kind of losing my mind towards the end. This is in my 20s, before getting a record deal, you know, and I'd have like old women coming out going, do you have another version of The Wind Beneath My Wings in a different key? You know, this one doesn't sound right. So I think I dropped my pack there. My wireless pack. But anyways, you know, I did that for literally like 6 years before getting to actually do rock guitar as a, you know, living. So, yeah.
Right.
Be prepared for that.
Yeah, you got to be ready to take the opportunities when they come along, right?
Yeah.
But you got to pay your dues.
You got to pay your dues, yeah. I mean, you know, it happens sooner for some people than others, you know. But I believe a big part of it is sticking around. You know, just hang in there and keep a good open attitude. And that, you know, you asked me about that earlier, how important is attitude. You know, it's huge. It's like being a nice person and drop the ego and just be somebody that other people want to work with, and that's like easily half.
Right.
You got to be able to play, but easily half is your attitude and your personality. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we have another viewer question.
Cool.
Mike would like to know, what's the best order to set up pedals, and can you talk a little bit about buffered versus true bypass pedals?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I actually did a cool video for BOSS where I discussed with Thomas Nordig, who's Steve Vai's tech, an unbelievable guy. Talk about a guy that's been in it for the long haul. You know, his life is devoted to guitar and guitar tones. So he came over to my old studio space, and we did this whole comparison. You can find it pretty easily on my YouTube channel. Just look, you know, do a Google search for Pete Thorn YouTube, and you'll find it. But it's a discussion of buffered versus true bypass pedals, is what I think we called it. And, you know, I think they both have their place. But, you know, if you're using you know, 20-foot guitar cable from your guitar to your pedal board, and then you've got, say, 5, 6, 7 pedals, and then you got another 20-foot run going back to the amp. You need to know that you're going to lose something in that signal chain, and it's capacitance. Guitar puts out a high impedance signal, and what ends up happening is the net result of and people say you can hear it over 18 feet or so of cable, but the net result of all the cables that you're running in between your pedals and, in between the guitar and the pedal board and the pedal board back to the amp is capacitance. And capacitance causes high-end roll-off and tone loss. And we demonstrated this in the video really effectively, I think, by showing what a 50-foot cable sounds like as opposed to a 6-foot cable.
Right.
And so, Boss pedals are buffered, and there's a place for true bypass pedals, I think, but you got to have some buffered pedals in your chain. If you're using anything more than a few pedals, and I want my guitar to be as true as possible going into the amp, and that means I don't like a lot of capacitance. I just don't. I know. Man, I was just having a little debate about this on the gear page the other day with somebody. I know some players like Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan and people would use long coily cables and stuff like that.
Right.
And that was giving them some high-end roll-off. But so if you're playing a Strat into a dimed Marshall or Fender amp, yeah, it might be a little ice picky, and maybe that high-end roll-off is actually desirable. It just depends,
Sure.
But for me, I'd kind of rather just turn down the treble on the amp rather than know that I'm losing something.
Sure.
So that's my take on buffered versus true bypass. Buffers, there's nothing to fear with buffers. It's all good. They're helpful in my mind. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that for most players where they have more than a few pedals, you definitely want a buffer at the beginning of the chain.
Yeah.
And it's a good idea to have one at the end as well.
That's what I've got. Yeah. Well, I use a wireless live a lot. So you should know too out there in guitar land, if you're using a wireless, you're buffered out of the gate because it's low impedance out on wirelesses. So So yeah, basically I totally agree. Buffer at the beginning, buffer at the end, and you're covered. I run a lot of cable. I mean, in my setup, I've got my wireless, and then there's I guess 20 or 25 foot cable coming from the wireless, which is backed by my amps, going out to my pedal board. All the signals going through the pedals and stuff, and then I've got a easily 25 or 30 foot cable going back to the amp. Effects send from the amp back out to the pedal board of the same length, 30 feet or so.
Right.
Another 30 going back to the amp. So I got probably easily 100 feet of cable going on. I got to use buffers. I have to.
Yeah.
It's very important that that the effects loop in my amp is properly buffered as well.
Right.
And yeah, it's part of how I know I keep my tone. But it's kind of amazing. Like I can run my rig. And I can plug straight into the amp with just like a 10-foot cable or something, and I can plug because I've done it, and I plug all this stuff in and listen, just A, B, and go back and forth, and it's very, very, very close to being the same sound once it's properly buffered.
Right.
So
you want to have pedals with good buffers in them, like the Boss pedals.
Yeah.
That are going to provide that for you. I mean, we've got 12 of them in a chain here that you're running through, and you're still getting a great tone through the amp.
Yeah, it sounds fine. I don't worry about it. I honestly don't. There's plenty of every Boss pedal's buffered, and I don't worry about cumulative buffers and all that kind of stuff. I just don't. I don't know. I just play. I don't
Right.
think about it. I think
Well, you don't
maybe
have
it's
to because they've taken care of it.
They've taken care of it, exactly. Yeah, I don't think it's if you're the kind of player that absolutely has to have true bypass, well, I understand. I mean, some people do. Like I say, I mean, Hendrix or Stevie Ray Vaughan, they wanted a certain, they like the high-end roll-off those cables would give them. So.
Right, but they were playing through buffered pedals too. They were primitive buffers.
That's true. Yeah, they were.
There were problems with some of those buffers and things that were going on with the non-buffered pedals and things. So
yeah,
there's all kinds of aspects of that.
Yeah.
But with today's buffers that are in the pedals like these, and combining those with true bypass where you want to,
yeah,
you can certainly dial it into exactly what you want.
Exactly.
And there's no reason to lose signal.
Yeah, there's lots of options, and I recommend check out the video on my YouTube channel and subscribe. Subscribe, please.
Subscribe, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a cool video, and you can plainly hear there's a graph showing the difference in sound between the buffered and unbuffered signals, and it's pretty cool. He also asked a question about the order of the effects.
Yes.
Just really quickly, generally what I'll do is I'll have a tuner, volume pedal, wah. Those things are going to be up front. And then I'll go into my distortions, compressor right after that, then into any kind of distortion units. After the distortions, I generally do start thinking about some modulation and stuff like that. Like if you got choruses and whatnot, then I'll go delay, and then I'll go reverb and tremolo, those things, and then the amp. Yeah.
So that's pretty much the order that you always follow when you're setting things up. Or
yeah, kind of. Yeah, when I think about it, it's like, I've got a volume really early on. Some guys use volumes in the effects loop of their amp, so they can if you got any kind of gain pedals on, or the front end of your amp is gainy, you can roll it back, and the distortion will stay the same.
Right.
But I like my volume control to be in front of everything, so it's kind of like the volume on my guitar. So when I roll down the volume pedal, the gain gets lower as well.
Sure.
So after that, then I'm volume, wah, that kind of thing, compressor, distortions and fuzzes. You know, univibe, if I was using it, would be up front of the distortions. Then distortions and fuzzes, and then modulation like compression and stuff, delay, reverb, trim, the amp.
Right.
Sorry, I'm getting hoarse.
No, it's okay. In this case, you got the multi-overtone, which really thrives on that extra harmonic content. So having that after the distortions gives you that extra material for that to operate on. So there's some pedals that you kind of have to work in there. You have to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because originally I thought the multi-overtone might sound best up front, but I think you're right. I think it sounds best after the distortions and whatnot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a cool place for it.
Right.
And it kind of makes sense because I use pitch shifters in general. I use some pitch shifting in my rig, and that I'll put in the effects loop, so it's coming post-distortion. It seems to work great.
Right. Right. Great. Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
So we have one last comment, which is, Pete, please come to Brazil.
Oh man, I love Brazil. I was there with Cornell in 2008 or 9, can't remember right now. But I think it was 2009. We had a blast. We played Sao Paulo. And actually, I've been there a couple times with different artists. And yeah, great musicians in Brazil. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, like the guitar players are just like surreal good from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, hopefully you'll get down there and make this viewer happy.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. Best crowds in the world too.
Great.
South America.
Excellent. Pete, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
This has
Mitch.
really been fun. I've learned a lot. Just
cool.
hearing you talk about these pedals. I mean, the Boss pedals are, you think you know them, but then you talk about them and you learn new things about them from an expert like yourself. So it's really been a treat, to say nothing of getting to listen to you play, which is really a treat. So thank you.
Thank you, man.
very
Well,
much.
thank you for playing with me as well. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Mitch.
it's my pleasure. It was an honor. So
Thank you.
And I want to thank you very much for tuning in to this Sweetwater Boss seminar. Boss featured Pete Thorn. Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it. Again, remember there's the Boss 100 promo going on until 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Make a purchase of $100, get a free tuner. Good deal, so take advantage of that. Call your sales engineer and let them know about it, and they'll take care of you. But thanks again to our viewers for tuning in for this seminar. And Pete, if I can I ask you to play out for us so we can hear a little bit more of that wonderful playing?
Yeah, absolutely.